dive into the enchanted world of the Grand Mabel mystery. And let me tell you, we've got a treat in store because joining us is none other than the man himself, my best friend of 20 years, Dr. Sam Khalaf. Tonight, I'm joined by Sam Khalaf, the author of the Grand Mabel mystery, to discuss his debut book, The Journey and the Challenges. Sam, born and bred in the vibrant streets of Tripoli, Lebanon, he's your friendly pharmacist by day, and by night he transforms into a visionary artist and wordsmith. Let me tell you a little bit about his journey. It's a tapestry of woven with threads of community compassion and leadership in the pharmacy world. But what truly sets Sam alight is his passion for creativity. He draws on the depth of his multicultural heritage, steeped in the flavors of the Orient and fueled by the love of cinema. Sam's artistic expressions are nothing short of spellbinding. Whether he's composing melodies that dance on the air or penning stories that tug at our heartstrings, Sam's fusion of science and art is nothing short of magical. It's a symphony of cultures, a canvas painted with colors of life itself, and resonate with audiences across the globe. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for the lovely words and the beautiful intro. You know you're one of my favorite people, right? I am so happy to be with you. Thank you so much for waking up in the morning.
It's a privilege to actually see this book come to life.
Thank you.
So let's get started. First, I really want to congratulate you on the release of your new book. I know it's been, years in the making. So can you share with us and the audience a little bit about the book and what actually inspired you to write it?
Sure. Now, as you may correctly assume from the name, The Grand Maple Mystery, it's a murder mystery, and it's set in Victorian London, 1860 London. I have always been inspired by this era of London, and the primary inspirational figure behind this book is none other than Agatha Christie. I have always been a fan of Agatha Christie ever since I was young. My sister, Jumana, used to read all of her books, and she made me fall in love with Agatha Christie, especially the novels where Hercule Poirot is the primary character or the main detective. So that's why I wanted to write my own murder mystery. That's how it started.
That's really nice. And like I said, I had the privilege of seeing, the early chapters of this. In terms of writing, let's go a little bit in terms of the motivation. This is the typical question that anyone asks as an author, obviously, or an artist. You might have your rituals to write a book. This is a typical cliche question. You have a typical ritual. And I know we did discuss when we were talking about the book when it was released, the Earl Grey story. That really intrigued me. And I think it would be nice to share with the people.
Yeah, actually, you're asking about the rituals that I would do whenever I'm writing, right?
Yes.
Yes. The rituals, they started actually ever since I was writing the first chapter, because I was drinking Earl Grey. It was the year 2013. So I was writing the first chapter and I was drinking Earl Grey. So in that first chapter, the protagonist, who's Richard, the private detective, he enters into this cabin, and it's a cold night, and he starts sipping this Earl Grey. So I thought, I'm drinking Earl Grey, Richard should drink Earl Grey, and that's how it started. I started infusing myself into Richard. I started, let me say, more or less wanting to live inside that novel, inside that story. And then the rituals started with that Earl Grey, and they continued. Every time I would be writing about any chapter or writing any character or putting pen to paper, as they say, I would be always drinking Earl Grey. And another ritual, which I probably told you once about it, it's the fact that I pride myself in the fact that this book took place over all those years in different countries and cities and continents. Every time
tell us a little
traveling,
bit more about that. I think it'd be interesting to tell people about that.
Exactly. For example, some chapters were written in East Asia. Other chapters were written in Europe. Other chapters were written in Turkey, let's say, others in France, others in Italy. So I really think that this book was created all over the world. It made me happy to see that it was like a little child, and this child I was getting pieces from here, pieces from there. That was really nice writing. And it is not necessarily that I was drawing inspirations from the places where I was, not necessarily, no. But when I am traveling, it's usually something that makes me so happy and so inspired. So that's why I would write whenever I am outside the country. Plus, sometimes I would write in my office while at work. Sometimes when there is, let me say, uh, not so much work during the day or in the afternoon or during lunch breaks, I would also feel inspired to work on this book. So that was also a very interesting thing that I was writing outside the country and in my
And it
home,
sort of
outside the
became
country,
a
and
part of your life, like writing
it
became part of your life. Yeah. And I think I
became.
could tell when I was reading the book, I could sort of see, like, knowing you for 20 years. Okay, we're going to seem really old now, but knowing you for 20
Yeah,
years, I can see, like, I was able to see where the book, how it started and how it ended. And I'm telling you, I read it in one day. That's how excited I was. So,
I didn't.
so, like, for everyone that's watching us, you're in for a treat, trust me. So let's talk a little bit
Yeah,
about the book. In
yeah,
the protagonist that you mentioned, Richard Abrams, he faces a number of challenges and adventures. How much of your personal
sure.
experiences and emotions did you actually put in that character?
That's what I was previously saying. I wanted to be part of that story. So without feeling, I just started to insert myself into that character. I wanted to be the main character in that story. Maybe that's how it happened. I started talking about how tall he is. I started
Mm.
to talk about how he loves music. I started to talk about how he loves the arts, how he loves animals, which are all things that are
That's who you are.
my
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, for anyone that
I,
knows you, that
yeah.
knows that you know who
So
you are.
maybe,
That's
yeah,
really
maybe,
interesting. I think
and
that's what
every
makes it realistic as well. Like, that's what,
maybe,
for
yeah,
me, that's what I felt made it real.
100%. And like you said, everyone within my circle who read that book, they felt the similarities between me and Richard. It's not like I was on purpose trying to be the main character in the story. No, 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 no. But I wanted to be part of this journey. I wanted to be in those streets of Victorian London, trying to unravel the mystery here and trying to solve all those crimes there. So that's how it was. It was such a fun journey. It was in a way as if I traveled to this country. Sometimes when I think about the places I have been to, in a way, I feel that I traveled to this place too, Victorian London, 1860 London.
And I see it, like, I felt it. Totally felt like I could imagine it. Like, as you were, describing the maple tree and all of that, like, I felt like I was sitting there, and without giving away, like, even that bench that you refer to, that, the protagonist spends a lot of the time there, I could see
Oh,
myself. Yeah, I can feel
yeah,
myself actually back in that time as well. So yeah, I think that's,
amazing.
and that brings it the authenticity of the book, and actually you putting yourself out there with writing this book. And
Mm.
like, you're a pharmacist by day and you're an artist by night, because for people that know you, you compose music and you play the piano, and also an author and a pharmacist. So that fusion of science and art, we see it in your work. So can you tell us a little bit how your background as a pharmacist would have influenced your writing style in this book, if it had
Sure.
any influence?
Actually, not as much as you would think it did directly. I mean, for example, Agatha Christie, my inspiration, she used to be a pharmacy technician during World War One. So when you read lots of her stories, she always uses poison and medicine as pivotal evidence or weapons. In my case, I wouldn't say that I used my profession as a pharmacist so much to infuse any pharmaceutical or medical terms, with the exception of one thing here or one thing there, or a medical condition that one of the characters had, which was liver cirrhosis. But this is funny. My work as a pharmacist makes me meet lots of people, lots of patients, lots of pharmaceutical sales reps. Now, some, not all, some patients, sometimes they tend to lie. They tend to lie when they are describing a certain medical issue, or they are talking about their compliance, or when they are talking about other things. Also, pharmaceutical reps, some of them, again, not all of them, and all of them are my friends after all, but some of them sometimes they also lie in order to try and take the deal to their benefit. So your work as a pharmacist all those years makes you become an instinctive detective. So
Yeah.
I know you're lying here, I know you're lying there.
Yeah.
This really happened. This really happened. I became a detective in real life, an instinctive detective. So it helps in a very, very, very beautiful way when you come and want to write a murder mystery. You start knowing how to build, you start to know how to build characters here and how to build characters there, different personalities, different characters, different characteristics. That was really fun because
And I think
there was.
you did it really well, because as you're reading the book, you're thinking one thing, but then you've got all these twists in there. Like you almost feel, because you make the reader, because I think your style, I mean, كما بيقولوا بالعربي شهادة مجروحة فيك as a friend, but still at the same time, as you're reading, it's like you think, oh my God, I solved this murder mystery. But then as you go on to the next chapter, okay, something new is happening. And I think maybe, that work would have probably influenced to be able to, because you've met so many different people in your life, it's, shaped that experience to be able to intertwine that mystery experience. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think, like, when we talk about, you have a multicultural heritage in your family and you have a, strong passion for cinema, have to say, people, if you ever want any recommendation for any movies, Sam is the man for it. Go. Sorry, I cut you off.
I recommend.
Yeah. Do you have any specific cultural elements or any cinema experience or influence that made your way, like, that shaped the way that you made into your story, that you brought into your story? Because, like, you talked in your, like, being as a pharmacist, being and sort of starting off as a sales representative in the pharmaceutical industry, meeting new people, you were able to pick who's lying and who's not. But from your artistic experience and, say, your love for cinema, did that influence anyway your style of writing? Was it infused in, the style of the way you wrote?
Definitely. I will tell you something. Whoever reads my book will see that there is lots of dialogue. There is lots of narrative, but there's also lots of dialogue. This stems from my love for cinema, from my love for scripts written by great screenwriters like Woody Allen, like Bill Wilder, Stanley Kubrick. So I'm infatuated with dialogue. So you did realize that there's lots of dialogues between characters, not just narratives. At the same time, people who love cinema will know what I'm talking about right now. I was paying homage almost in every chapter to something related to movies. For example, there's the Schubert music, which Richard plays on the piano once in the beginning of the story, and I won't give it away once in the end. It's not a spoiler. But this music piece by Schubert, it was used in Stanley Kubrick's film Barry Lyndon, which is one of my favorite films. I thought about paying homage. There's also a dream sequence in this novel, which was also paying homage or tribute to one of my favorite TV shows, Lost. There was also some homage paid to Wes Anderson and his love for everything which is symmetrical and linear and things like that. So yes, anyone who is into cinema will look at this book and will say, whoever wrote this book is infatuated with cinema. In addition to the fact that cinema makes you create as much characters as you want.
Yeah.
And you were saying a few moments ago that I used to compose music. That's right. I love all kinds of arts. I love music, cinema, theater, painting. But what I saw was cumulative of all these was writing, because with writing I was able to create my own world, my own universe, my own characters. That's why I think cinema played a major role in how I write.
It's really interesting to see, and it sort of like feels as if writing like liberates you as well, because you're not restricted, to
Yes.
like your mind can just go, for like can just go into imagination. Like when you think of a movie, like you're restricted to time, you're restricted to budget, like all of these things. When it comes to writing, you can just like just your imagination is limitless, and you can just have as
Yeah,
many characters. Have it's just it's just really interesting to see how your life experiences have actually shaped this book over time. We go
definitely.
back to the book itself and sort of, the protagonist, Richard Abram. And I know you were
Mhm.
mentioning to me that he's someone that I could relate to, and that's definitely was the case. But for you, was there any particular scene or chapter in that book or a character that held the significance to you personally, like a very special significance? And you would share, like, and why is it so meaningful without giving too many spoilers about the book?
Yeah, I will try not to give spoilers away, but almost every character I wrote about in this book, almost, not all of them, but almost every character I was trying to pay tribute to people in my circle, because you remember how I was saying that I wanted to be inside this society, I wanted to be inside the story, inside the streets of
Yep.
London. So I said to myself at one point, why not bring my circle with me? One of the characters' name is Sarah, and Sarah is my beloved cousin. Another character is Romanian, a Romanian lady. So it was also paying tribute to my best friend in the world, Diana, who's Romanian. At some point, you will also see some fur friends, and you know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
right? So, yes, I thought about including my circle in this novel as well.
Yeah,
So
it's like it
I can't
definitely feels like a
say too.
tribute to them. It's like a tribute to, did it feel like a tribute? You're paying your tribute to sort of your, the main people in your life, and a
Yes,
sort of
there
in a subtle
is.
way without, like to their face, like, it, because in the book it's something really special to you. So to include special people really means a lot.
There is also a character that doesn't show up in the novel, and Richard Abrams talks about her, if you remember, around chapter 3.
Yep.
This, there is someone from my past, and I was also paying tribute to her. Also, in the dedicated 2 section, this is my favorite part. In the dedicated 2 section, there were people around 2013 that I thought I would include. And after 10 or 11 years, you see that there are people I included and people I omitted and people who were not there in 2013 and they are now in my life. So it's a funny thing and an ironic thing how sometimes you dedicate things to people and suddenly you discover that they no longer exist in your life. Also, one of my beloved dedicated to people section is in the section is my teacher, Mrs. Dalal Isaac, who passed away a few months ago. I'm sorry she did not see the release of my book, but I'm sure she's proud of me
I'm sure
wherever
she is
she's.
definitely proud of your work and everything you've achieved.
I hope
On
so.
that point, like the book has, it's not just, it's been a while in the making. As you mentioned, back in 2013, who you would have thought we would dedicate the book. It's would be really challenging. Like, what kept you motivated to actually finish it? Because, a lot of, it's a normal thing that we start something and we don't, we sort of leave it with life challenges and all of this. We tend to, maybe forget, but it takes a lot of dedication and discipline to be able to
True.
finish something, even though it's taken a long time to do. But like what kept you motivated all these years to actually want to finish it? Is there anything specific or?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of my character, which doesn't anything to keep pending. So if I have something in mind, I have to do it, even if it happens after 10 or 20 years. I don't like to keep things pending in my life. So I somehow knew that I was going to go. That's one. The other thing is the support I had from my friends and family. One brief example was in 2017. One of my close people, she read some of the chapters, and then she went and watched Murder on the Orient Express. It's an Agatha Christie movie. Okay? So she went and watched it at the movies, and at night she texted me and she told me, I watched this movie. It's based on an Agatha Christie book, and it reminded me of your novel and your style and your chapters, and you should keep going. You should continue doing what you are doing. I think this can be really good. This is a brief example of how sometimes support from those around you and close to you can make you want to keep going. For example, when you read the first few chapters, you were also very impressed, and I took that in a very, very humble way. I was honored. So I think this support is really necessary for people to keep going, in addition to the fact that my character loves to keep going.
Yeah. And I think knowing that you're inspiring others by inspiring your friend to go and watch an Agatha Christie, maybe like with Agatha Christie, you really have to be into murder mystery to be able to want to read an Agatha Christie book or watch a movie. So I think that inspiration, is really great. Like we all need in our lives, and it could be something very subtle, but means a lot. And then you wrote a book in English. So the book you wrote is in English, whereas like you're Lebanese, your first language is Arabic. And probably people might wonder is that why wouldn't you write in Arabic, for example? Why did you choose to write in English?
Well, I have been asked this question by some relatives when they knew I was writing a book. They were French educated, and they told me, "Oh, you're not writing in English, but why are you writing in Arabic?" So I really did not have an answer at that time, but later I was asked several other times by several other people, and I started wondering, really, why am I writing this book in English? And I came to the conclusion that the answer is probably divided into two parts. The first part, it has to do with the language itself, and the second part, it has to do with me, Sam. The first part, the language, I think for a book to reach a wide audience, it has to be written in a universal language today. And English is the universal language today. So if I want to reach a very wide audience, I have to write in English. And I pride myself that I write good English because I'm an evangelical school student where English used to be our main language. Now that's the first part. The second part has to do with me. Me as Sam, or I as Sam, I do not confine myself to one nationality or one language or one culture or one country or one city. No, no, no. I think that I'm a citizen of the world. When we were talking about my multicultural heritage, that's how I see myself. I see myself as citizen of the world. So I believe that all languages of the world are mine. All cultures of the world are mine. All countries of the world are mine. All traditions are mine. I'm free to choose whatever language I want to study or excel at or write. And who knows? Arabic may be the language which I will write some books in the future, because I also love Arabic language. Make no mistake. I love
Yeah,
Arabic language, Arabic poetry. You know this
of
as my
course.
friend.
Of
So
course. Yeah, he just thought, to clarify to people because, people might actually question. And if we go back to the book a little bit, it's been, a number of years in the making. Can we talk about
mm,
some challenges that you would have faced and how you overcame them? And, I think we
it's
did touch a little bit about the rituals at the start that you do, but, like, is there any challenge that someone has an emerging author, it's your first experience, like that you could share that, other people who would be inspired by you that would that would take as
definitely.
inspiration?
Yeah. Now, as you know, the book takes place in 1860 in
Yes.
London.
Hmm.
So it was such a funny thing. Let me tell you something. The first draft ended around 2017, but that was the easy part, not easy part because I had to make all these characters and plots and blah blah blah. But the real hard part was the editing,
Yes.
and it my gosh, it was such a mess because I hired several editors and it took several editors to make the book. Finally, we ended up editing the book in a different way. And so, but for example, do you know that at one point I regretted that the book was taking place or the events were taking place in 1860 because it needed so much research? One brief example is somewhere in such a way that I would be saying the characters traveled tens and hundreds of kilometers. My sister, she once asked me, "Are you sure the metric system was used in UK in 1860?" We went and looked at it. No, it was not used. It was introduced, I think, in the 1920s. So
Yep.
I have to solve that and eliminate anything that has to do with the metric system with meters or kilometers or centimeters or a weapon that is 10 centimeters. We had to clean that. Also, one of the main characters, he was a dentist. For no reason, we started seeing that were there dentists in UK in 1860? We discovered that no, in 1860, physicians used to, let me say, cure your dental ailments. It was not,
Yeah.
there
Not an
was
actual
nothing,
dentist. And
yeah,
I'll
there
tell
was
you
no.
something. As I was reading the book, I had the editor hat on as well. And just being your friends, like I was literally like paying attention to all of this to see, like, not in effect trying to find a mistake, but it was more like I had my editor hat on to see, like, I could see how much work has gone into this book. Put the
So,
writing aside
so,
and the story and all of that, but it was very clear that all the evidence when you're referring to places, to, like you said, dentistry, even to music as well, because there's a lot of references to music. You can really tell
hmm,
it was a really well researched piece. It's not just like, you've imagined a place, and even though you might have not, you weren't there in the 1600s, but you were there, it felt like you were there, you knew everything. And I think,
I,
and that's kudos to you that
music,
you're authentic in terms of, and giving the audience a piece that's not just well written, it's also well researched as well. And I think that that's a respect to your readers. You're paying a lot of respect to your readers, not just like, I'm going to put a book out there for people to read, but it's like you respect their
true,
minds, and
true.
and for them to take the time to read.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's true. And thank you for pointing this out. I respected my readers in a way that I really wanted to be as authentic as possible. Another example, when you said about music, yes, Richard was supposed to be listening to Schubert's music on the phonograph, but there was no phonograph in 1860. They had to edit this and make it a piano. He was playing the piano. These things, they seem now little, but at the time they were so much. Also, the difference between the English words and the American English words. For example, I can't imagine how many times I had to eliminate the word apartment and substitute it with flat. I can't believe how many times I would realize that I wrote neighbor with no you in the end, neighbor or behavior or these words that have you in UK and in Australian and Commonwealth language. So yeah, it was hectic. It was hectic, really. That's why it spanned 11 years, I think.
So, I mean, I'd say hats off to you for doing, because that in itself is a lot of work as well. Um, you know, years in the making, and now it's in print. I mean, sort of like digitally in print. How do you feel? Like you, as a person that's seeing your work in print, and what advice would you give to aspiring authors that are wanting to embark on that journey? But it is a scary journey to actually want to start to write, to put yourself out there. It's not, people might think, oh, it's easy to write a book. You're just putting words on paper, but it's actually not, because as you said, there's research in it. There's, efforts and motivation and discipline. How would what would you say to aspiring authors who are just reluctant to take that first step because of all of the things you mentioned?
Yeah. First of all, let me start by saying I'm still in this denial stage. I'm still happy. I'm still too emotional that my book is finally out in the world. I remember the night when we published it online, because it's still an ebook. So when we published it and it was finally out in the world, I really got so emotional. And with me, there was another person who's very dear to my heart, and they are also a writer, so they know what I was talking about, or they knew what I was talking about, because they had the same emotions when their book got published. So it's as if you are having a child, as if you are conceiving a child. I think that's how it is, that you are having part of you giving it to the world. That's how it felt. As for my advice for aspiring writers, I still consider myself aspired, right? Still an aspiring writer. It's still my first book, but what I can tell them is that they should start. If they want to write, just start. Just start. Just put ink to paper about anything. Anything. Even if you think it's horrible, just start writing. Start writing, and the thoughts will come to your mind. Because if you are an aspiring writer, if you want to be a writer, if you have the passion to be a writer, it means you have this passion for a reason. You do have it for a reason. It means that you love creating characters, you love creating stories, you love creating incidents. You just start. Even
And in
if
the
it takes.
world of like we're in a world of social media, and probably the number of readers has gone a lot down from, say, 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
so, like, how would, for these people that would be watching you or reading your book and being inspired, how, if they want, you said put pen on paper, how would you think they would differentiate themselves, in a world where it's, fast paced, it's all about TikTok and Instagram. It's really not about, there's not a lot of emphasis on, on novels and reading. It's literally, it's a niche now. It's become a niche, which is, it's a bit sad that, when it comes to reading, like, it's not as something, if we go 10 years ago, it was something that, really encouraged, wherever you go, you would see people, with their books in their hands on train stations and on trains. But now it's like everyone's got their head to their phones. For these, inspired, authors that want to start writing, how do you think they could differentiate themselves and make, have their footprint within the writing industry?
I think, and I don't want to sound too philosophical, but I think that literature will never be in danger. It's not 100 years or 200 years old. It's something that is thousands of years old. I don't think it will ever be in danger. Okay, now we have social media. I personally sometimes feel that I am not reading like before, but I always go back to reading. I always go back there. But yes, now we have social media, we have social platforms that people are not reading like before. But I think that in the future, maybe reading will once again prevail. I think so, because reading is one, or let me say, literature and books, they are one of the standard arts, just like painting, just like uh, music. They are some of the standard, they are standard arts. They never change, never
They're a
change.
constant. They're a constant in our lives. That with social media and videos, they're short, they're momentary. But when you actually read a book, you travel to different cultures, different worlds, different universes, really.
Yeah,
So
even on
yeah,
social media, sometimes we can read things on social media. We can
of
read
course.
books. We can make advertisements for our books. Make no mistake, this interview here,
Yep.
it is
Yep.
also to talk about books, to talk about literature. Sometimes social media can be beneficial, right? But
Of course. Yep.
I don't think literature is ever going to be in danger. It's just about some people, they prefer not to read, other people, they prefer to read. I think in the past, there were also people who read and people who did not read. The only difference is that we find it today documented. We find it documented because on social media we see lots of people, and those people, they make these videos and they make these trendy things. But I always think that there are still many readers all over the globe. I'm not worried about
Yes.
that, to be
Yes.
frank.
Of course. And from this book, what do you hope your readers to take away from their experience? Like as they're reading the book, is there a specific message that you want them? Of course, enjoy a murder mystery, that's for sure. But is there, like, by end of the book, is there a specific experience that you have in mind that you would hope that they take out of
Thing,
it?
yeah, thing is, there are some subliminal plots towards the end that talk about great causes, but I shouldn't probably be talking about
Yeah.
them
Yep.
because they
You're
would
probably
be.
giving away. Yeah, giving away a bit. Yeah. And
I
what's
think
next?
I think something about love. There's something about love for animals. Also, there's something about integrity. There's something about the ongoing debate between religious and atheist people. There is also there's also the theme of let me say the theme of respect. There is the theme of respect
Yeah.
throughout the chapters. You will realize how much the characters were respectful to each other,
Yep,
even when they
definitely.
were even when they were having all these quarrels between each other. They were respectful. So this also is a very important theme, respect, which is how you can win your case with respect and with the appropriate words. How you
Yep.
can win anything you want, your case, your victories, whatever you want, just using correct words and with respect. That's also
Yep.
part of writing. That's
And
also part of writing where you become able to control your emotions, where you become able to control your anger. So that was also a very important theme, in my opinion.
yeah, I think there's a lot
Also,
of lessons out of this book as well. Like it's not just a murder mystery. A lot of life lessons that gets us thinking, as you said. All of these themes gets us thinking about the greater good.
also because I myself matured throughout those 11 years. In
Yep.
the first 4 years, I did not see lots of respect between the characters. I did not see lots of maturity between the characters. But later, as I edited and re-edited and rewrote and rewrote and rewrote, it became this way. It really became much better because
And
I
it's, I
think that
think
I
that's
also,
what made. Yep. Go on. Sorry.
yeah,
And I was saying
I was
that's.
saying that that's how I think I matured to a certain extent
Yeah.
during 7 later years after the first four. So that's also something interesting.
And I think you see it in the authenticity of the book. Like if people know you and they read the book, they can sense your authenticity and like what you stand for, your values. To me, I see your values in that novel as well. It's not just, like I said, it's not a murder mystery. It's a murder mystery. Yes, the theme is a murder mystery, but I see your values and what you stand for in life in that book as well.
Exactly.
So,
That's what
so
I try
what's next?
to do.
So, what's next? Can the readers expect more captivating stories in the future, or do you have other creative endeavors that you've got in mind?
Now, I think in the near future, I should make some few hard copy signings here in Lebanon because I still did not publish it as a hard copy book. It's still an ebook. It's available on Amazon. But
Yep.
I'm looking for the right moment in Lebanon here because Lebanon is having such difficulty these days with all the events all around us and the situation. So I'm waiting for the right moment to probably do a couple of book signings, probably one or two in Beirut, one or two in Tripoli. That's my plan for this. Also, that would be a big wish for me if someday it can be transformed into a movie or into a TV show. That's every writer's dream, especially if the writer loves cinema and movies. So that's for Grand Maple. As for my future plans, yes, I do have future plans about writing also. Just like I tackled murder mysteries in this book, I still have time travel to tackle. I would love to write something about time travel. I would love to write a black comedy book because you know me, I'm into black comedy and into yeah. So I would like also to write these two themes. I would like also to write, and this might not sound like me, I would like also to write a good romantic novel one day.
Yeah.
Know why, but I find that romance is it's a very intriguing, let me say, genre which I never tackled before. But yes, those are some of my plans, which are still plans in my head.
Yeah. Like, I don't think we can ever have enough romance novels out there as well, because us as humans, regardless of how mature we are, we're always looking, for that, bit of romance in our lives. And, like, it's always
We all,
the romance, romance novels always, transport us to a completely different, state of mind as well. So I think you'd be really good at that. I think people would be looking for, be one of, it would be a great book. So if we want to
and
purchase this book, people want to read this book or purchase it, where can they find it?
oh, it's available, like I said, currently exclusively on Amazon, primarily in the following websites, which are Amazon Australia, Amazon UK, Amazon Spain, France. They are available on these Amazon sites, The Grand Maple Mystery.
Yeah, I've
I
just
would,
put a link in the chat for people as well.
yeah,
They
sure,
can get the book. So,
sure, it
um,
would be lovely. And I really hope people would read the book and would like it. And I would love to hear the reviews of people.
yeah, I strongly encourage anyone that's listening to us or who'll be listening later. You are in for a treat in this book. Sam, any final remarks? Anything that you would like to say to the people out there? A note from the author, like from your heart.
Well, I really am a lover of the arts. I really wish that people would dedicate some time to their to the arts, some of their time to the arts, because, for example, as a pharmacist, being a pharmacist, it's such a tough profession, and I'm sure everyone who works out there, or almost everyone who works out there, they struggle. They struggle with everyday problems, everyday situations. It's important that they really influence themselves and give treats to themselves, give a spiritual medicine to themselves through arts. Really, because I have met lots of people who are not into arts. And once they started loving the arts, their lives changed. Their lives changed. Some people were not into painting, they started painting. Some people were not into music, they started listening to music and even buying musical instruments. These are people in my circle, seriously. So my advice to people out there, if you don't like arts, just start doing so. Start at some point. Just read, or just listen to music, just watch movies, just go and to exhibitions and try to paint anything. Arts are essential in our lives.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's my.
liberating. I think that's the word. It's art is liberating. Definitely.
It does liberate your soul from the confines of everyday
Mm. Look,
everyday's trouble.
yeah. Like it's been an honor to actually talk to you about the book, get the people to know a little bit about the Maple Mystery, get to know you, get the person who is behind, writing this book. And I wish you all the best. And then anyone
Thank you.
listening to us, go and read that book. Don't hesitate and tell me, trust me, you'll be captivated. You'd want to finish it in one day. So thank you,
Thank you, Fan.
Sam. Wish you all the
It was
best in the future.
it was a privilege. I would have never imagined 19 years or 20 years ago when we became friends. I would have never imagined that one day you and I will be having this mature conversations.
I
We're
know.
young and stuff like
I know, but
that.
it's nice. It's actually nice, and that's like it's that growth, seeing each other mature and grow in our lives. I think, that's the beauty
True.
of having these long-term relationships that from when we were kids until now with.
You'll always be one of my favorite people, and thank you so much for waking that
No,
early
no,
morning.
it's an
My sake.
anything. It's an honor for me. But thank you everyone for joining us, and everyone have a
Thank
good
you.
night. And if anyone's here from Australia, good morning.
Good morning.